Lee, we're going to start with you here. Thank you for being in here. Lee, of course, is with Sirius XM Satellite Radio and various other and sundry media outlets. I want the 30,000-foot view from Martinsville. You were there yesterday, unlike Brad Gillie and myself. You were there all weekend, but I want the whole vibe of what it was like to be at Martinsville for the final playoff race before we distill the Final Four.
The vibe was absolutely electric. It really felt like championship four morning, not just, the penultimate race of the season. And that's what was so cool. You walked through the garage and everybody was just laser focused on the task at hand because these teams, they know what it takes to win races there. And with so many good teams in the round of 8, the competition is going to kick your butt if you just leave them a little hole, a little opportunity. So everybody just really seemed spot on with what they had to do. Of course, you had a different energy with the 11 team who, Denny Hamlin was the fastest car before he wrecked at 33 laps in practice, never got to qualify. He was going to have to come from the back. And with his reputation at Martinsville and with his resume, you thought that perhaps with the Chris Gabehart-led team could fight their way back. And after 91 laps, he was in the top 15. But they worked their tails off. I don't know if they were completely spent after Saturday because they were leaving as I was coming back from Victory Lane with the Xfinity series. But it was one of these situations where you really didn't have a grasp on who would be the favorite until the race began.
So, Brad Gillie, we wind up with Ryan Blaney in Victory Lane. Let's give Ryan a little love here. We're going to talk about him a little bit later on. But the whole conglomeration of what came down in this race, is this one we're going to be talking about for years?
Yeah, no question. And I think for several different reasons. I mean, obviously for Ryan Blaney, 2 years in a row has a walk-off win and gets his way into the championship round. And the way he did it, I mean, that was good, hard, aggressive racing. Ryan Blaney used the bumper when he needed to use the bumper, raced clean when he needed to race clean, and literally showed exactly why he is a champion of our sport and at what level he's racing today. And I think that's a big thing. Obviously, all of the other things that happen in the closing lap of the race, or closing laps of the race, is probably why we're going to be talking about this for a long, long time to come. But I agree with you. We should recognize just the pure talent and the show that Blaney put on.
So, Ryan Blaney, how does it feel to make the playoff for 2 years in a row?
It feels great, and I'm just super proud of our group. Moving on from last week when I gave the race away, honestly, and just understanding what we had to do, and this group does such a good job. So there's a lot of pride in it. So proud to be with this team. Awesome to have another Team Penske Ford in there. Try to win Roger another title. Means a lot.
So half the Final Four belonged to Team Penske. William Byron, after the dust settled, picked up the fourth and final playoff spot.
I have a hard time feeling happy in this situation. We just raced as hard as we could and, raced within the rules and everything like that. So it is what it is at that point. We're tied on points and the wall ride is what it is. So had to fight through that, and glad to race for a championship, that's for sure.
All right, there was a lot going on at the end of that race. For right now in this segment, in this block of the show, we're only going to tackle the wall ride that was taken by Christoper Bell. Let's hear how he reacted.
I'm not bitter. It wasn't meant to be, and I'm proud of the successes that we've had in 2024. It's a bummer to not go to Phoenix because obviously that's a track we're really good at, but thankfully I got a couple more years on my contract, so I'll get another shot at it.
Lee, late in the race, on the final lap, as a matter of fact, Christoper Bell reacts in some part, does a reenactment of the Hail Melon that Chastain threw a couple of years ago. Did you agree with NASCAR's assessment that he was riding the wall and had to be penalized for that?
I absolutely agree with NASCAR because, as Elton Sawyer explained, they discussed this after it happened the last time, and they felt that it was in the best interest of the sport that we do not revisit that move. Bell didn't have to make that move, so to me, it falls on the team, actually, for telling him, hey, you're around Bubba now, just close out the deal, you're good to go. He did not have to do that. These teams go over so many different scenarios. Paul Wolfe, when Joey Logano won the race at Las Vegas, basically said, we had all these different scenarios that we came up with in case this, that, or the other happened. Why didn't they have that for Bell in the closing laps? The number 20 team over the course of the round of 8, despite having fast cars. I mean, he was the best car at Las Vegas. Despite having a pit crew that was just absolutely spot on, they did not close the deal and put him in desperation mode going into Martinsville.
Bradley Spencer is saying this is kind of a team systemic failure all around. What are you thinking here?
I would agree. In the last lap of the race, there should have been some situational awareness of, hey, just get to the checkered flag as opposed to ride the wall. I don't blame Christoper for making the move because you do what you do in the moment with the knowledge that you have at the time. But remember, they had actually a hiccup on pit road. That's what set Christoper Bell back. That's why he was not running on the lead lap in this whole situation. So, he even talked about it there in his post race. Look, we've had a great season, but there have just been some things along the way that have hurt us. And that includes what happened yesterday at Martinsville Speedway. Bell should not have been in the situation, period, to have to have done that.
I agree with that. I also think C-Bell has to take a little bit of the blame here. Brad, I think you used the phrase situational awareness. You can't do that.
Right.
That is verboten. And it has been one of the most talked about rule changes in the history of the sport. After Chastain pulled it off, there'd never been a precedence for it. Okay, you can't do that again. So that you can't do that. And he clearly did because all the data shows he hit the gas when he got to the wall. He's in violation. That's part one of the three-headed monster that went wrong at the end of this. Let's hear what NASCAR's Elton Sawyer had to say.
I would prefer not to be sitting here. I would prefer to be, out in the garage right now, but this is part of it. This is the role that is a sanctioning body, that we have to make sure that it's an equitable playing field. And just based off the move that was made 2 years ago, we just felt like this was the call that had to be made, and we stand by that and feel like it was the right call.
All right, so they stood by the call. Bell is disqualified from that spot. William Byron inherits it. William Byron becomes the lone Chevrolet and the lone driver for Hendrick Motorsports to advance. Joe Gibbs not happy. Jeff Gordon happy. There was a lot of yin and yang going on at Martinsville at the tail end of this. Guys, I want to propose this before we get into more. I watch a lot of NFL football. What happens when there's a controversial call, Lee? Is that a catch or a no catch? What happens? They bring on some ex-official, or the TV networks bring on somebody to say,
right.
Okay, this is this because of that. I almost think it might be time for NASCAR to have its own rules people that are separate from calling. Yeah. That are separate from calling the race. They have nothing to do with the race being ruled, except we've got a question on the rules. Let's go to these three people we have in a cage over here, and they're going to tell us what happened.
It's kind of like the committee that, evaluates the penalties,
yes.
Right? But you could have one person that was just stepped in character. Hell, go hire David Hoots, right? I mean, he's not doing anything. And I was
going to say Wayne Auten's retiring after this year.
Yeah. There are several people that you could look at to be in that role.
I mean, there are people that have gravitas, and you could make them emeritus members of the NASCAR sanction, but they don't have to be at the track. They can be over here at this big monstrosity they built in Concord for the broadcast center. And they could sit there and make those rules separate from the people that are actually running the race. And that way, where Elton says, I don't want to be here. No, he didn't want to be there. I'm sure he did not want to be with the glaring spotlight on him. Who makes the call? We still don't know exactly how that goes down.
It's going to be a long week.
Yeah, it is. So just a suggestion. It's like all the other ones that I've ever made. My career. Nobody will act on it, but I just felt like I needed to say that. All right, so we're going to break down also the alleged blocking that a couple of teams participated in to try to get Chevrolet into the playoffs, and then Bubba Wallace's flat tire that wasn't flat, or what the heck was wrong with the 23 car.